Hey, good morning, everybody. Steve Casper in the studio with Mr. Nutrition himself, David Gall. It's time for another round of What About Nutrition? And I think it's the supplements I take from O'Fallon Nutrition that are very carefully thought out that makes me feel so good this morning. I felt so good the last several months, David. I'm just excited. And you can tell by my enthusiasm. I'm glad to have you in the studio. We're going to go ahead and talk about something really kind of new and different. But before we do that, we want to remind everybody that What About Nutrition is the show that explores the link between nutrition and optimum health. And it does ask the overlooked question, what about nutrition? And every day, there's more scientific evidence and research regarding the critical importance of nutrition for the promotion of optimum health. So on this show, we'll always focus on dietary supplements, herbs, vitamins, and homeopathic remedies, what they are, what they do, and how to use them. We'll also discuss diet, exercise, and other aspects of living a healthy lifestyle in the 21st century. And again, your host is David Gall, owner of O'Fallon Nutrition in their new location at Highway K, Mexico Road. And David is a graduate of Washington University and Huntington College of Health Sciences Comprehensive Nutrition Program. So remember, always consult your health practitioner before beginning any new supplements or any changes in your lifestyle. The purpose of the show is to inform, educate, and entertain, not to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. And with that being said, David, I'm turning this one over to you because I'm kind of excited about this new topic today.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. Some of our listeners out there may have heard of a relatively new diet craze, although really it's the opposite of new, often referred to as the Paleo diet or the caveman diet.
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
And we've seen an upswing in the store of consumers coming in and asking us for foods or even supplements that fit within the guidelines of diets like this. So I thought it'd be a great way to start off the first half of our show today and kind of have a little brief discussion of the Paleo diet, what it is and what types of items we have at O'Fallon Nutrition that can support it. So, Steve, in previous shows, we've talked a little bit about, human ancestors and things like that. And basically, the Paleo diet is a diet that tries to recreate what our human ancestors probably ate. Sometimes in the store, I'll use an analogy with customers. I'll point out that if we owned a zoo and we were going to put lions and tigers in that zoo, we would probably ask the question, what do those lions and tigers eat in real life in the wild? When we're asking the question, what are we going to feed them in our zoo, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't feed those lions and tigers Twinkies and Domino's pizza. In the zoo, they feed them, parts of animal carcasses, meat, etc. And the reason for that is because that's what they eat in the wild on the African Sahara or in India, wherever the animal actually originally comes from. So my degree is in anthropology from WashU, and anthropology is the study of human beings. And one of the things that we get into in anthropology is looking at the history and at which point humans switched over from methods of living such as being a hunter and gatherer and switching over to something like agriculture. Mm-hmm. And the human record seems to show that agriculture is relatively new in human history. Approximately 10,000 years ago is what the record seems to show right now.
Right.
So before that, we weren't growing crops. So the Paleo diet is a diet that actually avoids grains. Mm-hmm. It minimizes or almost avoids legumes, which are things like beans and lentils. But it actually includes lots of meat, fish, eggs, insects, if one is so inclined. It also includes nuts and seeds and fruits such as berries. And other fruits are allowed too, but they try to emphasize your lower sugar fruits such as berries that people would have found. Be aware that domesticated fruits are higher in sugar than their wild counterparts. And the reason for that is because, of course, sugar tastes good. So as we domesticate fruits, we tend to choose varieties that are sweeter, and over time, the sugar content increases.
Yeah, they genetically select them.
Yeah, exactly. So the Paleo diet really is trying to answer the question, what did a wild human eat? And of course, humans come from different parts of the world, so this can vary a little bit. But the basic tenets of this diet are low grain, meat, fish, eggs, avoiding the legumes in addition to the grain, total avoidance of processed sugar, avoidance of other processed foods, but it allows lots and lots of fat. Now, this isn't exactly like an Atkins diet, although Paleo diets tend to be basically low carb in nature.
Yeah, they couldn't go to the grocery store and buy some white bread.
Exactly.
While you're talking about that real
Sure.
quick, I have noticed that, and I do believe this is true, that when you're eating all kinds of carbs and unhealthy things, that's when eggs and meat and the cholesterol is
Sure.
compounds the problem. When you're going really low on carbohydrates, like an Atkins diet or like this paleo like you're talking about, which is very natural, then the cholesterol in the eggs and meats are not threatening.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that seems to be the trend, really from a variety of schools of thought within nutrition. And part of the reason for that is that carbs and sugar promote excess insulin, and insulin raises triglycerides or blood fats. That's been proven in a number of studies, and also encourages inflammation. And inflammation can create a process that damages the lining of our arteries. Remember a few months ago we did an interview with Phil Hess, which should be available in the store on our website at OfallenNutrition.com. And Phil Hess described to us how inflammation creates this process that causes damage in the lining of the arteries. And then things like cholesterol are almost used like a mortar to repair the damage. And then if it heals, the cholesterol tends to go away and it's fine. If it doesn't heal, then you develop atherosclerotic plaque and all sorts of other nastiness. So you're right. Keeping the carbohydrates under control is a huge key because that keeps insulin and inflammation under control.
Right.
So one other tenet of the paleo diet is obviously to eat healthy animals. So since it is really built around eating meat and fish and eggs, followed by vegetables, nuts and seeds, and then some fruit, it's really critical that you're eating animals that were fed a decent diet to begin with. So that's where you're going to see a lot of emphasis on grass-fed meat or pasture-raised meat, which is basically meat or animals that have been allowed to feed off of pasture, as opposed to being fed sacks of corn or something like that.
Right.
Organic, and then there's also a lot of local farmers and community-supported agriculture and things like that. So, or CSAs. So consumers have a lot of options for looking for these products out there, and even the grocery stores are getting in on it with more organic meat, that kind of thing. Our store is starting to do some as well. So, cutting to the chase at O'Fallon Nutrition, we are bringing in quite a few caveman or paleo-friendly foods. First of all, we're featuring products from a new local bakery called the Organic Cave.
Wow.
Really, really excited about this. The Organic Cave is brand new and local, and they started selling at the O'Fallon Farmers Market. During O'Fallon Farmers Market season, you can actually find them there on Saturdays. I think it's being held in the Meadows Shopping Plaza right now. Really nice place. And the Organic Cave features treats made in their bakery that are paleo-friendly. They actually use almond meal, of course, which is a nut flour, and they use paleo-friendly sweeteners like agave nectar and fats such as organic coconut oil, along with ingredients like sea salt and natural vanilla to create their treats.
Yeah.
And they have Rocco chip cookies, they call them. Everything's named after a friend or family member. So they have Rocco chip cookies or Drew Drops. Drew Drops are these great little confections that are almost like chocolate chip cookies crossed with a brownie, but they don't have any wheat in them. They don't have any refined sugar in them. But they're delicious. It's hard to believe. We sample them in the store all the time. Now, in addition to that, jerky is really paleo-friendly, but the problem with jerky is that it's usually got MSG and nitrates and all sorts of, basically toxic chemicals added to it. But of course, a lot of ancient peoples would have, dried fish and dried other meats in order to consume them in the future, right?
Right.
So we at O'Fallon Nutrition are now featuring a brand called Caveman Foods, and they make chicken and beef jerky that is no MSG, no nitrates, and of course, as the name implies, Caveman Foods, it's specifically intended to be appropriate for a paleo diet. They also make Caveman Crunch, which are mixtures of nuts or nuts and dried fruit that are paleo-friendly. Paleo diet allows all nuts except for peanuts. Peanuts are actually a legume, and as we mentioned before, they can be infested with a fungus called aflatoxin. So when you hear, what's the issue with peanuts, if you were to Google peanuts and aflatoxin or peanuts and fungus, you'll find that it's pretty wild, isn't it?
What is trending on the internet?
Yeah.
Peanuts and
it's
fungus.
skyrocketing on Google right now.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's the issue. And so the paleo diet does allow for a lot of fat. fat basically takes the place of excess carbohydrates.
Exactly.
Now, it's not as hardcore as the Atkins diet on carbs. In a typical paleo diet, one would probably consume around 100 grams of carbohydrate a day. And some of that would come from nuts and seeds, and the rest would probably be coming from fruit. Whereas an Atkins diet is probably going to limit you to under 20 grams of carbohydrate per day.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, I love some nuts, but and I am a nut, but I love cashews, and I know they have
fine.
Are they fine? They have so much fat in them.
Well, that's the thing about a paleo diet. It's not unusual for somebody on a paleo diet to eat 100 grams or more of fat a day.
Yeah.
On a paleo diet, you can have a grass-fed ribeye, and you can have a grass-fed ribeye for dessert after that.
Wow.
And then you can have a few nuts, and then you can have a few berries after that.
Yeah.
So this is not a low-fat diet, and the issue here is by reducing the carbs, particularly the refined carbohydrate as well as the carbs from grains, you're dramatically lowering your insulin level. And let's be clear, carbohydrates drive insulin, insulin drives fat.
Yeah.
And that's a direct quote off of Mark Sisson's website. He's got a...
Let's say that again.
Carbohydrates drive insulin, insulin drives fat.
Wow.
Fat, when we eat fat, encourages leptin. Leptin turns off of our appetite. So when we eat fats, we actually, increase leptin levels. That actually triggers satiety, or the feeling of fullness and satisfaction.
Wow.
And as a result, you want to eat less. But remember, fat, although it's fat, does not trigger insulin.
Right.
So it doesn't put the body into as much of a fat storing mode. Now, final point, if you mess this up and you eat lots of fat with lots of carbs, then yes, you're going to store a lot of fat.
Exactly.
But higher levels of fat, particularly healthy fats, and we're talking about fats that are balanced in omega-3 and 6. Good last point on the fats, things like the polyunsaturated vegetable oils like canola oil are big no-nos. We want to consume fats like coconut oil, macadamia oil. Many paleo diets allow butter or ghee, some don't. But coconut oil, macadamia oil, olive oil, those are all totally appropriate, as well as the fats that are going to come from your healthy meats and fish. Your wild salmon and your grass-fed beef. Totally okay according to a paleo plan. So if you're thinking about following a paleo diet, marksdailyapple.com is a great website to check out. And at O'Fallon Nutrition, we have a lot of paleo-friendly foods.
Yes.
We're going to have a video that we're recording with Dr. Olivia Joseph of the Chiropractic Wellness Connection soon that we'll be sharing on our website as well as theirs. And we're going to feature some of the paleo-friendly foods that we have at O'Fallon Nutrition.
What was that website again you just gave out?
I believe it's marksdailyapple.com. And
Mark's Daily Apple.
That's correct. And Google it if that address isn't perfect, but that will definitely get you there.
And then go to o'fallonnutrition.com, o'fallonnutrition.com.
That's right. And come in and check us out in the store.
And it's right there at, it's on Mexico Road, right off Highway K as you go just south of I-70, right up there by where Slackers is and Quiznos. And it's on the far left of that little plaza there. Look for O'Fallon Nutrition, the big red sign. I'll tell you what a great store it is. We'll talk more about the store and upcoming shows. In the meantime, it's time to take a first break. We'll be back and continue our discussion. We've been talking about the paleo diet, and we'll talk about some other things as well as we continue. You're listening to Westplex Radio. We'll be right back.